right, Rabbi, say good morning. Let's begin. Today's daf is Tzadik Ches 98. A lot to do today. A beautiful daf. It's always a beautiful daf. Beautiful daf ahead of us today. We are picking up actually on the last line of Tzadik Zayin Amud Beis 97b. Our shir this morning is dedicated by Paul and Kathy Pollack in commemoration of the yahrzeit of Paul's sister Simone Zachrini Shulamis Bas Shmuel Zechron Levracha, and by the Esterson Mishpacha in commemoration of the yahrzeit of Ludwig Stiefel, Yitzchak Leib Ben Aaron HaKohen, and Hinda Bas Henach Ephraim. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshamas will have an aliyah and the families a nechama. So I'll say with that, let's go. So remember again, we are still pulling apart this pasuk from Yecheskel, trying to understand ultimately again what it's referring to, and on a kind of like bigger level, also focusing on the nature of the Amma used in the Beis Hamikdash. Was it an Amma Bas Chamisha? Was it an Amma Bas Shisha? The good news is we begin to see that the answer is both. We begin to see that at certain times and certain things they measured with a 5 tefach Amma, other times with a 6 tefach Amma. With that, let's begin. Ella Cheika Amma. Rather, when the pasuk says Cheika Amma, what does that refer to? Big of Ha. That refers ultimately to the height of the base of the Mizbeach. Amma Rochav, when it says Amma Rochav, Knisa, that refers to the indentation. Gvula El Sfasa Saviv. So we'll say, take a look, top of Tzadik Ches. Lo Shnahachi Velo Shnahachi. Ultimately, again, Rashi says, Kilomar, Knisasan de Kranos, Iboyle Memernaim Ba'amas Bas Chamisha, Loich Baslan. So we'll say, when it comes ultimately again to the indentation by the horns of the Aron, whether we're dealing with a 5 tefach Amma or a 6 tefach Amma, does not really matter to us all that much. Kama Havi, and you'll see why in just a moment, because we'll say, how much, what is the height of the Mizbeach? Chamshin V'tamdia, 58 tefachim. Palgei the Mizbeach Kama Havi. So we'll say, how much is half of the height of the Mizbeach? Esrim Metisha, 29 tefachim. Mikranos V'at Sovev Kama Havu, from the horns until the Sovev, what was the height? Esrim Utlasa, 23 tefachim. Kama b'tzir palgei. We'll say after taking that out, how much is left till you get to the middle of the mizbeach? So the Gemara says shisa, 6 tefachim. Now we'll say, remember again how we work backwards with all of this. Utnan. So we'll say, remember all of this comes back to the olas ha'of. So remember again, olas ha'of. The halacha is that it is done on the top of the mizbeach, but the blood is sprinkled where? On the side of the mizbeach, specifically Lamala Mechot Sikra, above the red line. So we'll say all of these discussions about where the halfway point of the Mizbeach is determine ultimately again where the Chot Sikra is, which helps us understand how the Kohen did the avoda from the top of the Mizbeach. Utnan, lemata meragolav. If the Kohen sprinkled the blood below his feet, in other words, he bent down and he sprinkled it on the side of the Mizbeach while standing on top of the Mizbeach. Afilu ama achos, even if he did it an amma below where he was standing, kshera. Ultimately, again, it works. So the Gemara says, and I will say, now this makes sense in accordance with the measurements that we just espoused. Dekanami dichsev. So we'll say, furthermore, again, it says, Chayk ha'ama va'ama rochav. Shema mina. So we'll say, indeed, see that these calculations work. The kama amma beinonis. So we'll say, let's go back for just a moment. How much is an amma beinonis? What we call an average amma. So we'll say, obviously, if you're calling something an amma beinonis, that what does that tell us? What does that tell us? There's something larger, there's something smaller. Says the Gemara, Am Rabbi Yochanan Shisha Tvachim. An Amma Beinonis is 6 Tvachim. Am Rabbi Yossi Bar Avin, Af Anan Nami Tanina, Rabbi Meir Omer. So we'll say, so again, remember, if an Amma Beinonis is 6 Tvachim, that must mean that there is also an Amma that is 7 Tvachim, and there is an Amma that is 5 Tvachim. So Am Rabbi Yossi Bar Avin, Rabbi Yossi Bar Avin said, Af Anan Nami Tanina. We also learn this. Rabbi Meir Omer, Hashulchan Arko Shnei Masar Verachbo Shisha. Rabbi Meir says the Shulchan ultimately again has a length of 12 tefachim and a height of 6. Michlal, a Michlal Dahavya. Amma. Michlal Dahavya Amma Nefisha Minei. Now, also we can infer from this that what? That halacha l'maisa there is a larger Amma than the one being measured here. Look at Rashi. Michlal. I just lost the place. No, not yet. I'm sorry. No. Well, umitkuri lebenis michlal dikan. Fine, we'll go on. So michlal dahavia aman defishamine. In to which the Gemara says, yes, that is correct. There is a larger amma. V'hatnan, but we learned. The boss is actually quite fascinating. Shtei amos chayu b'shushan. There were 2 amma measuring sticks in Shushan. Shushan, right? Shushan Abira. We'll say, what's Shushan Habira? This is amazing. Rashi says, Shushan Habira, Cheder Echad Haya Banoi Al Shar HaMizrachi Shal Hazara. We'll say there was a room. Or in fact, as we're going to see, it seems to be, it's not just a room, it seems to be like it was like a turret, like a little bit of a tower, right? A room built on the eastern gate of the Azara. Why was it called Shushan Habira, Shushan the capital city? Umitsuyar Ketavnis Shushan Habira. It was decorated or painted to make it look like Shushan. Okay, we'll discuss this in greater depth in just a moment. So as I said, for now we're not worried about Shushan. What we're worried about is as follows. There were two measuring sticks, two amma measuring sticks in Shushan Habira. Achas al Karen Mizrachis Sifonis. One was by the northeast corner. That's where it was positioned. Va'achas al Karen Mizrachis Sifonis. One was by Mizrachis Dromis. Excuse me. One was by the southeast corner. Shal Karen Mizrachis Sifonis. The one measuring stick that was in Mizrachis Sifonis. Yiseira al Shal Moshe Chatzi Etzba. It was larger than the Amma of Moshe by a Chatzi Etzba. Now I will say, how big was the Amma of Moshe Rabbeinu? So Rashi says Bas Shisha. So Moshe Rabbeinu's Amma was a 6 tefach Amma. This measuring stick, this Amma measuring stick that they had in the what we'll call Karen Mizrachis Tzifonis, the northeast corner, it was larger than the Amma of Moshe by a half a finger's breadth. Okay. Shal Karen Mizrachis Dromis. So we'll say the one in the southeast corner, first wide line, Sadik Ches Amud Aleph, Haisa Yisera Lechatzi Etzba. We'll say ultimately again was larger than that one, a Chatzi Etzba. So we'll say it means that the one in the Mizrachis Dromis, the one in the southeast corner, was essentially a full finger breadth larger than the Amma of Moshe. The one in the first corner was a half a finger breadth larger. The one in the second corner was a half a finger breadth larger than the one in the first corner. So therefore, again, it was a full finger breadth larger than the Amma of Moshe Rabbeinu. Nimtzeis Yisera al Shal Moshe Etzba. Therefore, we'll say it turns out that the Amma in the second corner was a full etzba larger than what? Than the Amma of Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Gemara says, watch this. Velama amru achas kidola va'achas kitana. So we'll say, why did they have these two Amma measuring sticks? Why did we have this? This is actually amazing. Kadeshu amonin notlin biktana umachzirin bigidola. In order that literally the craftsman would take using the smaller one and would go ahead and return with the larger one. What does that mean? Look at Rashi. Kadeshu umnin notlin biktana shehe gizbar masna im ha'umnin kach v'kach amos binyan tivnu lebedek habayis b'kach v'kach damim ba'amos shal Moshe. So we'll say ultimately again when they would contract, so they would contract with the umnin using the smaller amma. But when the umnin would actually build, they would build with what? With the larger amma. So the Gemara says the kach v'kach amos binyan tivnu lebedek habayis v'kach damim ba'amos shal Moshe. Umachzirin lo lemidas amma gidola she'yisera le etzba. So the Gizbar would contract with the craftsman using the 6 tefach amma of Moshe Rabbeinu. But ultimately, again, when the craftsman would ultimately build, they would build with the amma of the Shushan Habira, which ultimately, again, was the amma of Moshe Rabbeinu plus an additional finger breadth, a finger width. So the Gemara says, now they did this, Kadesh Yosifu al Tanam Mishalahem, Shalo Yifchasu, Venimtsu Nenim Min HaHegdish, Yosem Imasha Asu Banadimila. And I will say, now this is not just the Beis HaMikdash's desire to get a better deal. What this was about to say was in order to avoid Me'ila, right? So because remember, if the craftsman ends up quote unquote building even a little bit less than what was contracted for, it turns out that the contractor is getting benefits from consecrated funds on a personal level. Therefore, ultimately, again, in order to ensure that halacha l'maaseh we run into no situation of me'ilah, essentially the craftsman, it was understood you would always overbuild. See, I will say, whenever, I guess certain things have not changed, whenever you build for Jewish institutions, never expect to make a profit. Right? That's the goal. Meaning you're doing it for your schar and olam haba. Right? You're not doing it as your business venture. Business ventures come elsewhere. When it comes to Beis HaMikdash, you'll be lucky if you break even. Right? That's That's the goal over here. So Gemara says as follows: Kadesh Yavol de Meila, V'tarti Lama. He's supposed to say, why do I need these two measuring sticks? So the Gemara says, Chadal Kaspa V'Dava, V'Chadal Binyanos. Well, this is actually very interesting. One of them was to go ahead and measure gold and silver, and one was for regular building. If you take a look at Rashi, Rashi says v'chadol davav kaspa kishemasnin sarfei zav lasos tavla bas chamesh o bas eser ba'ama shalmosha osin osa lemidas ha'ama hayisira le chatzi etzba v'lo ba'osa sheyisira le etzba. So we'll say, here's what's interesting. So they never used the amma of Moshe Rabbeinu, even though the amma of Moshe Rabbeinu is the basic measure when building the Beis Hamikdash. They would never actually use it. They would always use an amma plus a little in order to avoid any potential issues of mi'ilah. So we'll say, if you notice again, however, in Shushan Abira, they had two measures. One was an amma of Moshe plus a half a finger breadth. One was an amma of Moshe plus a full finger breadth. So why do they have both? To which the Gemara says the half a finger breadth one was for gold and silver. Because since gold and silver, again, are precious metals and are expensive, you don't want the craftsman to be out too much extra. Versus, so that's when they used, ultimately, again, the amma with the extra half a finger breadth. Versus the amma with the full finger breadth, I will say, that was used for actual building. Tanan Hassam. So we'll say actually really, really quite amazing. So it turns out, I will say, that you begin to understand that halacha l'maisa, they actually had multiple measurements of amos. It appears that the amma of the Beis Hamikdash is what we call the amma of Moshe Rabbeinu, which was the 6 tefach amma. But in Shushan Abira, they had two additional amma measures. So, but they never used that amma. They never used that amma. What did they use? One of the two amos that was kept in the chamber of Shushan Habira. Either an amma that had 6 tefachim plus an extra half a finger breadth, or an amma that had 6 tefachim plus a full width of a finger breadth. The half a finger breadth ultimately again was used for gold and silver. The full additional finger breadth was ultimately used for building. Incredible. Says Martan Hassam, Sha'ar HaMizrach Alav Shushan Abira Tzura. Supposed to remember again, as we saw before, there was a chamber by the eastern gate that was decorated or painted like Shushan, or had an image of Shushan Abira on it. My timer, I will say, why would we have a picture of Shushan Abira on a chamber of the basement? This is amazing. So we'll say one opinion says that we should know ultimately again where we came from. Where we came from. We'll say, where do we come from? Remember again, it's Koresh, right? It's Cyrus, ultimately king of the Persian Median Empire, who goes ahead and gives the green light to go ahead and begin to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. It's Daryavesh ultimately again who completes it, but it was the Persian Empire which allowed us to go ahead and rebuild the Beis HaMikdash as a sign of Akaras HaTov ultimately again to the Persians. So what do? We go ahead and we decorate a chamber in their honor, that we should know that ultimately again Persia allowed us to rebuild. The other opinion says that we do it ultimately again, that it could be, by the way, that the Shushan Habira chamber was actually not commissioned by the Beis HaMikdash. Who was it commissioned by? By the king of Persia, right? It was commissioned by the Persian government. Just to say, hey guys, if you're thinking about rebelling, just understand where your bread is buttered, right? Just understand ultimately, again, where you came from, who gave you the permission, so be careful. Now, it's also quite possible that it was the Jews who built this also as their own reminder not to rebel against the Persians. Rabbi Yanai says, this is actually amazing. This is so incredible. Rabbi Yanai says that the reverence, emo often means fear, but it doesn't just mean fear, it means respect or reverence. The reverence of Malchus should always be upon you. So we'll say, if you look at Rashi, actually no, not yet. So Shene Emar, so we'll say this is amazing. So where do we learn this? So that the aim of Malchus should be upon you. Shene Emar, the yardu kol avaydacha ela elai, v'shtachavu leimor. So let's remember again, this is Moshe Rabbeinu speaking to Paro. And Moshe Rabbeinu says to Paro, the time is going to come where your servants are going to run down, prostrate themselves before me, Moshe Rabbeinu, and beg us to leave. Now, interestingly enough, what doesn't Moshe say? Ve'ilu lididei lo ka'amarle. If you notice again, Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't say to Paro, you are going to come running to me and bowing down. Why not? So the Gemara understands that to mean because even Moshe Rabbeinu respected Paro. Even Moshe Rabbeinu ultimately again had deference to Paro. So we'll say, what is the Gemara teaching us? The Gemara is teaching us a respect for authority. a respect for authority. Whether I agree with the authority or not is irrelevant. That ultimately, again, there's a concept of respecting the structure or the framework of authority. Even a Moshe Rabbeinu, who is really there to get the Jews out, he's really there as a test of Paro's power. You see the way he speaks to Paro. You see the way he respects Paro. I'll tell you something amazing. The Sfas Emes comments on this. The Sfas Emes says that by the Makov Tzvardeya, so Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Lamatai atu lecha." When do you want me to go ahead and remove the frogs? Paro says, "Smart." Moshe Rabbeinu leaves the palace in order to pray. So Rashi says, why does Moshe Rabbeinu leave the palace in order to pray? He leaves the palace in order to pray because there was so much avodah zarah around there. He didn't want to daven there. The Sfas Emes, I don't remember who he quotes, but he says something amazing. He says, you know why Moshe Rabbeinu left the palace to pray? He didn't want to spiritually offend Paro. Paro doesn't, right? This is not Paro's God. Paro has avodah zarah. So if I daven to my God in the midst of your avodah zarah, it's going to be affront to your ideology. I have absolutely no interest in offending your ideology or upsetting your theology. You know, you should live and be well. All I want is my people. People say it's incredible yesod to respect the concept of authority, even if you don't agree with it, but just a general derech eretz. The Gemara goes weiter. Rabbi Yochanan says from here, he brings a different source. Same idea, different source. Shneimar, V'yad Hashem haisa el Eliyahu, vayishanis masna, vayaretz lefnei Achav, ad bo'achal Yisrael. Supposedly this is amazing. This is by Eliyahu HaNavi. So Eliyahu HaNavi, the pasuk says that the hand of God was upon Eliyahu, and he ran before Achav's chariot until Achav got back to Yisrael. So we'll say, this is actually amazing. So Achav, remember, is unfortunately a terrible, terrible Rasha. But Eliyahu HaNavi saw that the king was traveling unaccompanied. It's not bakavadik for the king to go ahead and travel unaccompanied. So what does Eliyahu do? Eliyahu ran in front of his chariot, like a runner before the king. So I'll say, so the prophet of Israel, Eliyahu HaNavi, runs before the king of Israel, Achav, as a demonstration of respect. Because we're both saying, sometimes it's not necessarily just a respect for the person, but it's a respect for the position that the person occupies. So Eliyahu understood, even though Achav is a Rasha, he is Melech Yisrael. He is the king. And so because he is king, ultimately he deserves respect. Incredible. Va'alei l'tshuva. So we'll say this, by the way, is okay, I'm just not going to even give it words. So we'll say this is the pasuk from Yechezkel. The pasuk over here is talking about when Mashiach comes, there is going to be a river which flows from the Kodesh HaKadoshim. There's going to be a river, literally again, a river that flows from the Holy of Holies. And on the banks of that river that flows from the Kodesh HaKadoshim, all kinds of things are going to grow. And the Navi discusses the various things that are going to grow. So one of the things that it says, the pasuk says, Va'alehu litrufa, and its leaves will ultimately again be for healing purposes. So we'll say, what kind of healing? Rav Chistav Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi Chad Amar Lahatir Pesha Lamala, V'Chad Amar Lahatir Pesha Lamata. One say that it'll remedy the upper mouth, one says it'll remedy the lower mouth. So both say these are metaphors. The upper mouth means that if you eat of those fruit, if you eat of the fruit of those trees or the leaves of those trees, even a person who can't speak will be able to speak. Or the other opinion says, even those who are barren. That's a reference ultimately again to the mouth below. Even if a woman is barren, if she eats from those fruit, from those trees, ultimately she'll be able to give birth. Itmar, Chizkiya Amar Lahatir Pe Ilmim, Bar Kavra Amar Lahatir Pe Akara. So also here they say it more explicitly. Chizkiya says if you partake of those fruit, ultimately again, it gives speech to the mute. And Bar Kavra says it will go ahead and give children to the barren. Tan Rabbanan. Ilu Ne'emar, so we'll say, so back to Lechem Aponim. Ilu Ne'emar, I didn't mean to say like back to Lechem Aponim. Like we'll say, back to Lechem Aponim, Baruch Hashem. Tan Rabbanan, Ilu Ne'emar, V'lakach T'soletz V'afisa Osa Shtei Mesichas. So we'll say, now the Gemara is going to go through 3 different psukim and explain to us how we need 3 psukim in order to teach us all of the halachos concerning the number and the stacking of the Lechem Aponim. So watch this. So Tarabbanim, Ilu Ne'emar V'lakach T'soletz V'afisa Osa Shtei Meseichalos. So if the pasuk would have said, take soles, bake it, make it into 12 loaves, v'samta osam shtayim ma'arachos, and it would have told me to place it in 2 stacks. V'lo ne'emar sheish, and the pasuk would not have told me that there are 6 loaves per stack. I would have said, Hayisi Omer, achas shel arba v'achas shel shmona. I would have said maybe one stack is 4 loaves and one stack is 8 loaves. In other words, we'll say, if it would have just said 2 stacks, but not telling me 6 loaves per stack, I would have said, okay, you have to have 2 stacks. But lav dafka, how many loaves go in each stack? Lekach ne'emar sheish. Therefore, the pasuk says 6 loaves per stack. Lekach ne'emar sheish. V'ilu ne'emar shtei ma'arachos sheish ha'ma'arechas. If the pasuk would have said, you have to go ahead and create 2 stacks, 6 loaves per stack. V'lo ne'emar shtayim, but it wouldn't have said 2 stacks. So v'lo ne'emar shtayim, excuse me, it wouldn't have said 12. Hayisumer, I would have thought shalosh shel sheish sheish. Maybe there are 3 stacks of 6 loaves each for a total of 18 loaves. Lekach ne'emar shtei mesrei. Therefore, the pasuk says 12 loaves. V'ilu ne'emar shtei mesrei chalos u'ma'arachos v'lo ne'emar shtayim v'sheish. The pasuk would have just told me 12 loaves, and it would have said stacks, but it wouldn't have said 2 of 6. Hayisumer shlosha shel arba arba. I might have thought that it was 3 stacks of 4 loaves each. Lekach ne'emar shtayim v'sheish. Therefore, the pasuk says 2 and 6. So what do you see from here? Therefore, what you see from here is you need all 3 psukim to teach me what Rabbi say. From all 3 psukim, I gained the 3 following pieces of information. Number 1, there are 12 loaves. Number 2, they are arranged in 2 stacks. And number 3, they are arranged 6 loaves per stack. Beautiful. Haketa. So we'll say, so ultimately, again, how do we set up lechem upon him? No sein shtayim ma'aracho shel sheish. We go ahead and what? We go ahead and we make 2 stacks of 6 loaves each. V'im nasan achos shel arba v'achos shel shmona. But Abba says it's actually very important halacha l'maisa. If you make 1 stack of 4 loaves and 1 stack of 8 loaves, what's the halacha? Lo yatsa. Rabbi say you have not fulfilled the obligation. Shtayim shel sheva sheva. Rabbi say, listen to this interesting case. What happens, mamish, like, everybody's got to be meshuga for something. So I'm meshuga for lechem upon him. So for me, I can't stop baking those loaves. So what happens? I decide to make 14, 2 stacks of 7, and I place them on the shulchan, 2 stacks of 7. So we'll say, so what is the halacha, right? What's the status ultimately again of those loaves? So the Gemara says. I'm sorry, I just lost the place. It's very fun. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Omer, Rabbi says, it's okay. We don't care about that top loaf, nor is the 7th top loaf. We just simply view it as if it's not present. How can you say that? So we'll say, but 1 second, here's the problem. Where does the levona go? The levona is placed, we already saw, on the top loaf, or at least according to one opinion, on the top loaf. So the problem is as follows. If you tell me that you view, so presumably in this case, where you have 2 stacks of 7, where is the levona going? It's going on top of the top loaf. If you tell me that the 7th loaf is as if it's not there, then what happens to the levona? To which the Gemara says, Rabbi Rabbi goes according to his reasoning. What does he say? Amar al b'samuch. Rabbi will say Rabbi holds that the word al doesn't have to mean on top of. Rather, al can mean what? Next to. Lav dafka that the levona has to be on top of the lechem. The levona just has to be what? Next to the lechem. As long as it's next to the lechem, that's okay. I'm sorry.
Where's the oven?
The oven was in the Azara, courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash. Disanya. Rabbi Omer, v'nasanta ala ma'areches levona zaka. You shall go ahead and place on the ma'areches. You shall place on the stack pure levona. Al b'samuch. We'll say al just means next to. We'll say we saw this before. That's why al could mean on top of a loaf, or al could mean next to the loaf. So, for example, when we saw the lechem aponim configurations, we had opinions who held that what? That there was 2 tefachim of space in between the 2 stacks of loaves. What did you do with that space? Well, at least according to one opinion, that's where you're putting the levona. It says al. Al doesn't have to mean al. Al can mean next to. So the Gemara says, Ata omer al b'samacho inu ala al mamish. You say al means next to. Maybe al means on top of. Kishu omer v'sakosa al ha'aron saparoches havi omer al b'samach. So we'll say the raya is when you say v'sakosa al ha'aron saparoches, you shall place the paroches, the covering on the aron. Rabbi say this refers to the covering. This refers to the curtain between the Kodesh and the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Now the pasuk says you shall place the paroches on the aron, but al ha'aron. But of course here, what do we know? It doesn't mean you put it on the aron. But so where are you putting the paroches? Next to the aron, right in front of the aron. So from here you see ultimately again that halacha l'maisa Al doesn't have to mean on top of, but rather al can mean next to. Kol hakelim sheba mikdash. We'll say ten rabbanon. Kol hakelim sheba mikdash arkon la'arko shel bayis. We'll say in general with the utensils of the mikdash. So you placed the length of the utensil along the length of the Beis Hamikdash, with one exception. Chutz me'aron. We'll say the one exception to this was the aron abris. Sha'arko l'rachbo shel bayis. So we'll say the way the aron was situated was that it was almost like perpendicular, meaning the width of the aron was placed along the length of the Beis Hamikdash. Right, so in other words, like the aron appeared to almost run like perpendicular to the Beis Hamikdash. So this was the length of the Beis Hamikdash. The aron sat like this with the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So the Gemara says, the kachaya munach, the kachaya badav munachim. And I will say this is how the aron was situated, and this is how the poles of the aron remained as well. I will say, remember again, the poles of the aron were stationed at the sides of the width of the aron, so that when you carry the aron, you do not carry the aron, lengthwise. You carry the aron widthwise. So we'll say, the aron itself, ultimately again, its width is situated along the length of the Beis Hamikdash, which means then that the poles of the aron do run along the length of the Beis Hamikdash, sticking out towards the curtain of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So the Gemara says, listen to this. So where do we know this from? Tisanya, vayarichu abadim. So we'll say the pasuk says that the poles were elongated. This pasuk in Malachim, vayarichu abadim. So we'll say ultimately again, the poles ran the long way. The poles ran along the length of the Beis Hamikdash. Yachalo yehu nogim beparoches. I would have thought that the poles did not touch the paroches. Talmud lomar vayiru. The pasuk says the poles were visible. Ivayiru yachol yu mekaram beparoches. So I'll say ultimately again, if it says they were seen, so you might have thought that means that they tear through the paroches. Maybe the poles extend through the paroches, the yotzin, and go out, which really says Talmud lomar lo yiru hachutza. Ultimately again, the Gemara says, the pasuk says that the poles will not be seen on the outside. So we'll say, so how does it work? Haketza, top of Tzad B'Chesamad Beis, Dochkin uboltin beparoches. So we'll say ultimately again, the poles protrude from the paroches, Vidomin kimein shnei dade isha. And I will say again, the poles kind of protruded from the curtain in the same way of the shape of a chest of a woman. Shene Emar Tzrar Hamar Dodili Ben Shaddai. So we'll say, so that's, first of all, this is really incredibly fascinating. So that's the imagery. I will say that ultimately again the poles were visible. If you were standing in the Kodesh, you saw the protrusions of the poles from behind the aron. You did not, obviously they didn't protrude outwards. You could just see them extending into the curtain, but of course not outside of the curtain. So the Gemara says, Uminalan debadav lefusya da'arahavu. So this is actually amazing. How do we know that, so we'll say, I don't know that we always think about it this way. I think sometimes we assume that the poles of the aron were arranged along the length of the aron. It's not true. The poles of the aron were situated at the sides of the width. So when you carried the aron, you carried it widthwise going forward. So where do we know that from? We'll say this is actually amazing. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Huda, Trei Gavri Ba'amsu Pagalo Mistagilu. We'll say this is amazing. I'll tell you why. Because remember again, the width of the aron itself was really three amas. But I will say, but the idea is, the Gemara is saying over here that if the poles were situated along the length of the aron, remember you need 4 people to carry the aron, right? 2 on each side. There would not be enough room for 2 people to stand next to each other on the 2 opposite sides of the pole if it was arranged along the length of the aron. I don't know if I'm being clear on this or not. If you were to put the poles along the length, that means the 2 people on each side would only have a very limited amount of space in between the 2 poles. There would not be enough space for 2 people. Therefore, by definition, the poles had to be arranged along the width in order to give 2 people on each side the ability, the room, to be able to carry it. So the Gemara says, how do you know that 4 people carried the aron? So the Gemara says, Pasuk says the kahasim plural will carry it. That's 2. No se hamikdash, those who carry the Beis Hamikdash or the Mikdash, nami trei. So we'll say, so the fact that it uses this ribui in both of these contexts ultimately again means 2 and 2. No se hakasim is 2. No se hamikdash is also 2. Tan Rabbanan. So we'll say, so first of all, it's just incredible. So first of all, you're beginning to see First of all, the idea, it's also fascinating that when you went into the Kodesh, obviously it only applies to the Kohanim, but when you go into the Kodesh, even though it's only the Kohen Gadol who gets to go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim once a year, but every single Kohen was made ever aware of the presence of the Aron every single day by seeing the poles protrude out into the curtain itself, which is amazing. Number two, the idea that the Aron is not carried lengthwise, the Aron is carried widthwise, which Shabbos also means, remember, the Kruvim also faced each other along the length of the Aron. So when you were carrying the Aron, I mean the Aron was covered when you carried it, but when you carried the Aron, essentially what you would see was the profile of the Kruvim. That's what you would see, the side profile of the Kruvim when the Aron was being carried. Okay, good. So the Gemara goes weiter. Tan Rabbanon, this is amazing. Asara shulchanos asa Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech made 10 shulchanos. We'll say this is actually quite amazing. Even though there's only an obligation for one shulchan, ultimately, again, Shlomo HaMelech made 10. He made extra shulchanos in the Beis HaMikdash. Now, Bepashtos, only one of them was actually used, but he made these extra utensils to make the Beis HaMikdash even more beautiful. Shneimar, Vayash shulchanos asara, Vayanach behechol, Chamisham yamin v'Chamisham mismol. He put them in the shulchan, made 10 of them, 5 on the left, 5 on the right. Vim Tomer Chamisham yamin ha'pesach v'Chamisham mismol ha'pesach. Maybe you'll say 5 were on the right of the entranceway, 5 on the left of the entranceway. Imkain, that can't be why. Because Matzinu Shulchan Bedaro. Ultimately, again, it would turn out then that you would have some of the tables in the south. V'atorah Amra v'Shulchan Titi Natzelet Safon. And I both say the pasuk explicitly says that the Shulchan is to be placed in the north. Ella. So how were these 10 Shulchanos arranged? Shamosha be'emsa. So Moshe Rabbeinu Shulchan, meaning the Iker Shulchan, was placed in the middle on the northern side, and Chamish miyamino v'Chamish mismolo. The 5 additional ones, 5 of them are put on the right, 5 of them are put on the left. Tan Rabbanan. So we'll say similarly again. Esther menorahs, Asa Shlomo. Shlomo also made 10 menorahs. So we'll say, first of all, you understand, by the way, what this tells you about the incredible wealth of the empire of Klal Yisrael. Right? So we'll say those words again soon. The empire of Klal Yisrael. Right? You see the wealth of the empire of Klal Yisrael. Remember again, these menorahs are solid gold. Solid gold. So to make one is incredible enough, but Shlomo is making 10 of them. The Shulchan is also, remember, the Shulchan is wood plated with gold, but it's still a lot of gold. So Shlomo HaMelech made 10 menorahs. Shne'emar, Vayasas HaMenorahs HaZav, Eser Kimishpat, Vayitain Baheichol, Chamishim Yon v'Chamishim Mismol. Same thing, Rabbi saying. Shlomo HaMelech made 10 menorahs out of pure gold. He put it in the Heichal, 5 on the right, 5 on the left. Vim Tomar Chamishim Yamin HaPesach, Chamishim Mismol HaPesach. So maybe you'll say that what? 5 of them are on the right, 5 of them are on the left of the entrance of the Beis HaMikdash. Imkain Matzinu Menorah B'Tzafen. We'll say if that's the case, then it turns out that's what? We find the menorah ultimately again in the north. V'atorah Amra, and the pasuk says, Ve'es ha-menorah nochach ha-shulchan. The pasuk says that ultimately what? The menorah is opposite the shulchan. Ella, so we'll say, so how would you situate it? Ella Moshe be'emsa. Rather, I will say ultimately again, the menorah was placed on the menorah was placed right. The Moshe Rabbeinu's menorah was in the middle, and Chamisha miyamina v'Chamisha mismala, and there were 5 menorahs on the left of it, 5 menorahs on the right of it. So Tani Chadeh, so we'll say one brayse that teaches us. So first of all, just amazing. So first of all, you see that the Iker utensil, meaning the major menorah, the used menorah, and the used shulchan, meaning the one that was used, those were placed in the middle, and the additional 10 were situated around it. Tani Chada, Mechatzi Bais V'Lifnim Hayu Munachin. So we'll say, so one pasuk says that Mechatzi Bais V'Lifnim. So Rashi says Munachin Kala Shulchanos Ve'ein Echad Men Mechatzi Min Achitzon L'Tzad HaPesach. We'll say, so the pasuk over here says that the Shulchanos were placed halfway into the Beis HaMikdash. Halfway into the Beis HaMikdash. The Tani Chada Mishlusha Bais V'Lifnim. And one says no, they were placed 1/3 of the way into the Beis HaMikdash. So which one is it? Was it a half or was it a third? To which one is lo kashya? Everything depends on how you measure the area of the Beis HaMikdash. Marka chashiv beis Kodesh HaKadoshim. One includes in the measurement of the Beis HaMikdash the area of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, in which case again the Shulchanos were halfway into the Beis HaMikdash. So the Gemara says Mar lo chashiv beis Kodesh HaKadoshim. The other opinion does not include the area of the Kodesh HaKadoshim in the measurement of the Heichal. In which case what? In which case the Shulchanos were only placed 1/3 of the way into the Beis HaMikdash. Tan Rabbanon. Mizrach Ma'arav Hayu Munachim Divrei Rebbe. So we'll say Rebbe says that the shulchanos, the tables, when they were arranged in the Beis Hamikdash, so they faced in one direction towards Mizrach. So when there was one part towards east, one part towards west. In other words, they were arranged on an east-west axis. V'hainu arko l'arko shalbais, which Shabbos means that they ran along. The length of the menorah was placed along the length of the Beis Hamikdash. That is Mizrach U'Ma'arav. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon Omer, Safon v'Daram. Rabbi Shimon says no, they were arranged in a north-south axis. So we'll say first wide line Tzadik Ches Amud Beis. My time at the Rebbe. Where does Rebbe get this from? That it's east and west. Gam Rabbi Menorah, he learns out Shulchan from Menorah. Ma Menorah Mizrach U'Ma'arav. Af Hachanai Mizrach U'Ma'arav. Just like the Menorah Bosai was arranged on an east-west axis, so to the Shulchan was arranged on an east-west axis as well. Menorah Gufa Menorah Bosai. We do know that Menorah was arranged east-west. Medichsiv Bener Ma'aravi. I will say the fact that it's when the Torah speaks about the Ner Ma'aravi, which is what we call the western light, Ya'aroch Oso Aron Lifnei Hashem. The pasuk says he shall arrange it before Hashem. I will say now, what does that mean? So the Gemara says, Michlal dekulu lav lifnei Hashem. So I will say the fact that the Ner Ma'aravi is positioned in a different way, i.e., towards we'll see lifnei Hashem before God, indicates to us ultimately again that the other candles are not arranged that way. Now, what does this mean? Look at Rashi for just a moment. Midichsiv b'Ner Ma'aravi lifnei Hashem. Dichsiv ya'aroch oso Aron lifnei Hashem. Demashma oso lifnei Hashem. Vein achar lifnei Hashem. So we'll say one of the lights of the menorah was arranged towards the west. Let's start base Kodshei HaKadoshim. Alma Mizrach Ma'arav Munachim V'achitzon Shal Tzad Ma'arav Kari. So we'll say ultimately the menorah must have been arranged ultimately again in a north-southwest, in a Mizrach Ma'arav, in an east-west way. V'achitzon Shal Tzad Ma'arav Kari Nei Ma'aravi. And the outer candle is called the Ner Ma'aravi, arranged with Hashem. And if you want to say ultimately again that the menorah was arranged in a north-south axis, then ultimately again all of the candles would go ahead and be arranged facing Lifnei Hashem. Rabbi Elazar Shimon, my time, where does he get his opinion? Rabbi Elazar Shimon holds that ultimately again the menorah is arranged Safon V'Darom, is arranged east-west. Where does he get that from? So the Gemara says, my time, a Gomer me Aron. He learns it out from the Aron. Ma Aron Safon V'Darom, Av Hani Namit Safon V'Darom. Just like the Aron ultimately again was arranged, Rabbi say east-west, north-south. So too the menorah was arranged north-south. The Rebbe Nami Ligmar Aron. So why doesn't Rebbe learn out the position of the Shulchan ultimately from the Aron? We would rather learn out the utensils that are outside of the Kodesh HaKadoshim from other utensils that are outside of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So I'd rather learn out the Shulchan from the menorah than learn out the Shulchan from the Aron. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Ligmar mi menorah. Rabbi Elazar, Shimon, why don't you learn it out from menorah? Amar Lachan, why do you learn out Shulchan from Aron? Why don't you learn Shulchan from menorah? Amar Lachan, menorah gufa safon v'daram hava mancha. Because he will say that the menorah itself was also situated safon v'daram, was also situated on a north-south axis. But the pasuk says that ultimately it will be arranged by Aaron and his sons. The mitzadet lu atzdude. To which the Gemara says, Rosh, if you look at Rashi, it's Rashi on the to the right of the picture. Mitzadet lu atzdude laolam tzafon v'daram. The menorah was normally arranged from north-south. But really there was only one candle that faced towards the west. This refers ultimately to the middle candle. That's the image of Rashi over there. So shepia psila klape marav, because ultimately again the wick itself faced the west. Ushara psilos mitzudados pien klape soy, and the other candles faced, the other wicks faced towards the west. We'll say that's the image over here of Rashi. In that image, the middle candle is ultimately again facing west, and the other wicks are facing towards the middle. The Sanya, El Mul Pnei HaMenorah Ya'iru Shivas Haneros. The pasuk says again, opposite the menorah shall the 7 candles burn. Ultimately, this teaches us, Rabbi, in the Beis Hamikdash, all of the candles, all of the outer candles, we'll call the outer 6, faced where? Towards the middle. Rabbi Nasan Mikan she'emtsoi meshubach. And I will say from here we learn that what? That literally again the emtsoi is meshubach. That ultimately again the middle of anything has a shevach. The middle of anything ultimately again has a certain praise. With Rashi says legabe shalosh shekarim b'sefer Torah b'sheni b'chamishi b'amirim b'seches Megillah and pochsim asar psukim v'kamar Rabbi Nasan de'emtsoi meshubach v'kari arba v'ashar gimel gimel. So here's another example of this I will say that halacha l'mais the Gemara b'seches Megillah says that on Mondays and Thursdays when you lane you can't lane less than 10 psukim. And what's the proper way to go ahead and order those psukim? 3, 4, 3. Why? Because the emtsai is meshubach. I will say, from where do we see that the middle is meshubach? We learn that from the menorah. Because I will say, and this indeed, by the way, is how the Rambam paskins, that the menorah itself, the middle wick, faced west, towards the aron, faced west. The other wicks faced in towards the middle wick. Ultimately, again, from here we see the emtsai is meshubach. So we'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up in Meretz Hashem at the Bishlama, 4 lines up from the bottom. I'll share with you a short idea from the parasha. So we'll say we read this week an incredible episode of Yaakov Avinu leaving the familial home, running away towards Lavan, or running to Lavan, either away from home to Lavan, in order for a variety of reasons, to escape the wrath of Esav, to find a wife. And so, of course, one of the dramatic pieces of the parasha is the dream that Yaakov Avinu has on his way to Haran. And in that dream, we know it says that Hivine Sulam Mutzavarza, he sees ultimately again the ladder, is positioned on the earth, goes all the way up to the heavens. Malachei Elokim Olav the Yardim Bo. I will say there's an interesting detail immediately prior to the dream. Yaakov Avinu is getting ready to go to sleep. And what does the pasuk say? Vayikach me'avne hamakom, vayasam me'rashosav.